Hey, what's going on? You know who it is. It is Bruce Jordan, the Michael Jordan Hotels. Today we got Nick in the house, and we're going to be talking about supply negotiation and inventory control from the F&B master herself. How you doing, buddy?
I'm good. And how are you?
Pretty good, pretty good. Thank you for joining us on the show today. My first question I ask everybody is, how did you get started in this business?
Oh boy, how much time do we have?
Ha ha ha.
So my dad was a chef. My parents owned restaurants, and so I grew up in kitchens. My first job I was 9 years old as a dishwasher. My dad's kind of approach was, child labor laws be damned, and I was in the kitchen, 9 years old, dodging pans. I just never left the industry. I just worked my way up from there.
Now, when in this business, we always have a lot of different vendors that we deal with. What are some of the things that you do to get better pricing? Like, what are some of your negotiating strategies?
Well, thankfully with a lot of I'm part of a pretty large organization. And so we have, some pretty, strong buying power. And so we're able to leverage those things. And we have a lot of great GPO partners as well. People like Avendra, from a purchasing, procurement standpoint to, help maintain some of the master food distributors and make sure our prices are in line. And, because every once in a while, I remember one time in a previous life, around 2021, 2022, when things were still a little crazy, post-pandemic. And, we started getting some food invoices where cases of lettuce were $400, cases of eggs were $400. The perception, again, I can't speak to the definitive nature of why that happened, but the perception in the property and the above property leadership level was that they didn't think anybody was paying attention from an invoice supplier standpoint. And I mean, I've dealt with vendors who have, at the last day of the year, dropped a large quantity of chemicals on the property and then billed us on the 31st to be able to hit a sales quota. And then we weren't able to catch it because it was New Year's Eve and we're in a restaurant, And so some of these vendors, you really got to keep an eye on them. But again, once you have a good vendor you can trust and a good rep, that relationship is very important. And, thankfully, a lot of our vendors, the ones that I work with nowadays, they're very, very reputable, very strong, but also, having that relationship with the local farmer, the local purveyors, the local fishermen, in the local, even the local, beef and cattle farms, in the markets in which we operate, be able to, focus on that local product and the hyper sustainability aspect of it as well is very, very important.
Wow, wow. I remember when I had this owner, he had two hotels. One of them was a branded property, the other one was a boutique hotel.
Mhm.
And even though they were under the same umbrella, I guess they really didn't look at the invoices closely. And come to find out, like, the boutique hotel was paying 3 times the amount
Yeah.
that the branded hotel was paying. Like, have you ever came across any situation?
Yeah. And that's the thing is that, they're a business and they're going to do what they need to do to, they're going to make a profit. And so it's interesting. So if you have a branded hotel, that brand has that strong negotiating buying power that they've leveraged across the entirety of that brand name, most likely. And that's probably what that particular situation was, because I've run into that all the time.
Mhm.
And then I just say, hey, you need to match this price because that's my hotel over there too.
Uh,
Like, tell me the difference because it's the same rep.
that's right.
Bring it in. It's like, tell me more. And like slide the paper across the table. And it's in 9.9 times out of 10, they make the adjustments and they say, they want to keep the business because that's what it's about, right? It's about good relationships and, everything in this world gets done through relationships. And that's, what it's all about.
Now that you say that, I really have a hard time understanding how they can, because some seems a little predatory. Like, they know someone is leaving in the purchasing department, and they know, like, new's coming in, so they just put a slight little increase on the price just to see if it's gonna.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not price gouging, but we did one analysis looking at the order time of day. And we found that there was a 6% increase in the same product if we ordered it after 2 p.m. And just again, I'm sure there's a logical reason for it, but I just said you're not allowed to order after noon. And then just as made everyone order earlier and we just solve for the problem, and it's one of those things like where there's a will, there's a way, right now we're dealing with all the uncertainty surrounding tariffs. And I haven't seen a ton come down that, materialized as far as price increases go yet. But with all that uncertainty, that every hotel and F&B operator out there is preparing and planning to maintain those GOP margins, right?
That's right.
And so every other supplier is also doing the same thing. So you got to think about like, how are they going to get there? If we're getting there this way, they're going to get there their way too. And so it's just a matter of like, okay, we need to make sure that we maintain, the integrity of our operations without, sacrificing the guest experience. And, their model is a little bit different, but again, it's one of those things when you have those strong relationships, that you get the commitment from the suppliers to maintain a pricing integrity or a certain level when you're dealing with such volatility.
Wow. I have three more questions for you, and they're all audit questions. So this is going to be really good. One, dealing when it comes to servers. Servers get cool with the manager. The manager gets them the key to void items. They get a cash check. They go and void the item so that they get a bigger tip. What do you usually do?
Fire everybody. I mean, that's not everybody, but again, like if a leader in my company is facilitating something like that, I've got a bigger cultural issue where they think that that's okay. And so obviously there's terminations and theft, right? I mean, that's the answer, right? There's no, it's fraud is, it's the most basic of, it's just fraud.
Correct. Room charges keep getting incorrectly posted to rooms. The wrong ones.
It is a consistent issue?
Consistent issue.
So is the guest signing the check?
The guest is signing the check. But for some strange reason, they don't get the room number right.
So the night auditor should be reconciling this against the guest ledger. And then the last name, which is usually somewhat discernible on a guest signature check, needs to be reconciled. If you can't reconcile it, then it goes back. It should be, again, every day in my hotels, when those things happen, they go back to the F&B, the senior F&B leader, the director of food and beverage or senior F&B manager, to review and then, address them because it's lost revenue, right?
Right.
And but the thing is, it's also lost tip, right? So that's where that server needs to know, like, they're not helping themselves. Like you're not keeping money. It's throwing that out there because again, like it's one of those things, like, and it's just a training piece too, right? So it's like the room validation through a POS system should be done, because there's integrations with POS systems is you validate the room number and you just trust and verify the last name. And if it's not right, then change it.
Correct. S&P, they keep closing too many items out the S&P. So instead of, if someone walks out or skips out on a bill, they just close it out the S&P.
Well, so whether it's, S&P, A&G, or whatever that particular property system is for me, it's a matter of getting an understanding of what's happening and why. If it is guests walking out on a regular occasion, because every check that's voided or comped needs to have our explanation with it by our otherwise our controller starts walking around and you don't want that.
That's right.
And so those checks are reviewed every day by the GM and the director of food and beverage. So it's sort of those things of like, you see the same thing over and over again, it's just to raise a red flag. And at the end of the month, when you bill off to sales promotion or A&G or F&B, whatever department it goes to that pays the bill for that, at the end of the month, if it's a spike in dollar amount, then it raises a red flag because we track these things, on a daily, weekly, and monthly basis. And if there's a spike, like it's a red flag to me, and I start asking questions, and then we just go from there, try and dive in, figure out what the solution is. Because again, they could be, if the steak is consistently overcooked, either stop serving the steak or get somebody on the grill that can cook a steak.
That's right.
Right. And that's the thing, and it's, and so it's a matter of getting an understanding of where and why these things are happening.
Fantastic. Listen, tell everybody how they get in touch with you.
Oh boy. I don't even use social media, to be honest.
No LinkedIn, no nothing?
Oh, I have LinkedIn. Yeah, I got that one. Sorry. Yeah. I have social media to monitor the restaurant marketing accounts, but that's it. I'm just not the social media guy. I got LinkedIn. Name's Nick Murray. You can find me on there. But that's it.
Fantastic. And thank you for joining us for another episode. This is Bruce Jordan of Michael Jordan Hotels, signing out.